Hello, folks. Today we're going to have a masterclass in logistics. Let me explain what I mean. When I was a Gartner in the late 90s, SAP would take a few of us, only from Gartner, to Waldorf for a few days and do a deep dive on different products. Now, since then, vendors have become much more creative. They're doing multi-firm analyst summits, and those have become more and more complex. People are combining them with customer plant visits, customer advisory board meetings, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody has attempted what Zoho did with its recent Truly Zoho summit. It was in Chennai, which is in South India. So they flew about 20 analysts from around the world to this meeting. And then there were a whole bunch of tuk-tuks and taxi rides and bus rides and commuter planes and God knows what all. There were probably 100 different Zoho executives who flew in from around the world to present. They graced us with a few customers. They invited a few customers. We must have had, you guys can fill it in, but some of the most elaborate meals available in India and some of the simplest ones, right? Those that you eat on banana leaves. So I've been, for the last month, I've been thinking about, my God, what was the project plan that went into all this? It was 5-6 days for most of us. So I don't have to wait anymore. I've got Sandy Loeb and Pooja Mittal, two of the key people. There were many more who were involved, but these two really put it all together. Sandy and Pooja, introduce yourself and let's drill into the logistics. I can't wait to hear about God, what all you arranged. So Sandy, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Vinnie, for inviting Pooja and I to talk about this whole experience. So hi, everybody. My name is Sandy Lowe. I am the head of global corporate communications at Zoho. And basically that means what it means. PR, AR, customer advocacy, thought leadership, content. Here at Zoho, we do it all. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and excited to get into some of the details.
Sandy, you forgot to mention you have one other task, which is herding a bunch of worthless analysts. Very difficult job. Pooja, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Vinnie, for having us here. And I take care of the analyst relations bit for a future of work and collaboration of apps globally. And I work with Sandy. So yeah, that's about me, a little about me.
You guys are very modest. I expected 20-minute resumes from each one of you.
Oh, yeah. Not our style.
So Sandy, let's start with you. Talk about how this idea came together. How many months of planning went into it? How did you, just go through all the gory details. And then Pooja, I want to focus a little more on logistics with you. So Sandy, kick it off.
Yes, certainly. Well, it took at least 6 months actually to plan the entire experience, but I'll start a little bit further back. So if you recall, you were definitely one of our guests. Our last Zoho day, which is our analyst summit, was in hot Austin, late summer, and we had more than 100 analysts, which, of course, we're very, very grateful for. But one of the lingering feelings that I got during the event and also after was, wow, we're getting big. We love the support, but something just felt missing. The smaller, more intimate feel, seeing, not just hearing. I felt a lot of that was missing. Now, don't get me wrong, Zoho Day serves a different purpose. We need to get our various platforms out there. And as you know, we have many of them. And it's critical that we continue that pattern. But there was a little part of me that felt, well, maybe we can do something different in 2023. Instead of going big, let's do the opposite. Let's go small and let's build an experience that is sort of the anti-Zoho Day. And let's go with no slides. Let's just go with this fully immersive experience where people will feel who we are, and that meaning will come to them instead of us just force feeding slides and positioning to them. So that is the genesis of the idea. Now, I first proposed it to Raju basically a month right after Zoho Day in late July. And we felt, okay, well, let's give it a shot. That's a good idea. And as you know, shooters always sort of said, well, we can take some of the analysts here, have them stay with me in Tenkasi. So they really see what transnational localism is all about. Well, we didn't do quite that, but we wanted to let everyone sort of see where the sausage was made and all the people behind the scenes that typically don't get to present at Zoho Day with Zoholics. And most importantly, we wanted to focus on our culture and not so much the products, the strategy and all of that. Well, to be fair, culture is very much part of our growth strategy. So that's how truly Zoho came about. We had to, it's always tough to handpick, who gets to go. We love the support from, so many different analysts, but when it came down to it, we really wanted to host analysts who already understood our culture, already sort of showed some form of appreciation for who we really are, not just our products, and those who have known us and seen our evolution for quite some time. So we had a small handful, about 15 actually, and we wanted to make sure that there were more of us than them. So we're able to really ensure they had the smoothest and actually the most genuine experience we can possibly provide. So fast forward to...
Sandy, just a point on that.
Yeah.
I noticed that, Zoho is not a new company, right? You've been around at least 20 years, longer.
26, yeah.
You're quiet about marketing. Your marketing has been modest, right? I noticed that, and correct me if I'm wrong, many of the analysts who were there, like I know Paul has known Sridhar I've known Sridhar for at least 15 years. Paul said he had known Zoho for 15 years. So you tended to invite people who had known you for a while. So, you didn't want to have new folks, and then the product would have been more important. Like you say, it was more focused on culture rather than product. And so that probably helped your selection. But I was very grateful to be invited, and I'm sure everybody else was.
Yeah, no, the appreciation and the feedback has been wonderful, but you're absolutely right. Truly Zoho, the name really means two things, like a signature, truly Zoho from us. But I think more importantly, we wanted to create that experience where you see and experience the real Zoho, our culture, our people, everything surrounding why we do the things the way we do. So that was the purpose and the goal, is to show you and let you feel who we are.
So it was 3 days in Chennai, and it was operations, people, and growth were the 3 days. So tell me how the Chennai part came along, then we can talk about Tenkasi after that.
Yeah, definitely. So the three themes actually were created after we sort of went to a whiteboard, a virtual whiteboard, and just listed out all the different experiences and the people that we wanted the analysts to meet. We talk a lot about our privacy policy and our security. We talk about owning our own data center. These are things that we always talk about as Zoho Day. And because, it's critical to who we are. We build from the ground up, and there's certain things that we do not compromise on, right? And then, we talk a lot about our people, our culture, our approach to talent. Those are all sessions that we wanted you guys to see. And of course, growth, we can't not talk about the way we grow, not how and what we've done to grow, but the way we grow, a very, very different approach, which is very people-centric and very cultural-centric. So after seeing all the sessions, these three things became very clear, and so we decided to provide a little bit of organization versus like taking you guys all over the place to different parts of the campus, which we did, but, it was all about, hey, today's going to be about really our operations, how we run, why we do the things we do. And then the people, wow, people at Zoho schools, our artists, and how big of a part they play in who Zoho is. And then, of course, on growth, we had a bit of product information, but really the regions, how we grow, how we approach talent, very, very different from most of the companies I have worked with too. So yeah, that's sort of how we organize the 3 days on a Chennai campus.
I love how you talk about experiences. I'm thinking back, getting to meet many of your regional executives that I have interviewed on Zoom. was one of my, really top experiences. Meeting your design team, right? People who have created so many of your notebook covers and cubes at Zoho Day and so on. It was so nice to meet Rafik and his team. It was so nice to be able to walk through your schools. You have a computer engineering school, you have a design school and all that. Meeting some of the folks, really great. Meeting some of the startups you've invested in, right? An autonomous vehicle company, a med tech company, and so on. I mean, these were, you could talk about it, but meeting those people in the flesh really brought it together, for at least for me, right? And then, the fact that you arranged the first session knowing Chennai's traffic at the hotel, so we didn't lose much time. I mean, I didn't mind the 12-hour days we had, just because we knew the traffic would be bad. I loved how you scheduled all that, where you got the most out of people, and yet, there was plenty of time for socializing and so on. So, the experiences, like you talk about keyword experiences, great job. Tell me more about the planning. So, you had so many different executives. How did you decide on, hey, this person can only get 6 minutes, this person can only get.
Well, oh my God, after all the analyst summits and conferences you've been to, time management is a skill. Time management is absolutely a skill. And, I think we did not over rehearse. Let's put it that way. We definitely prepped various executive spokespeople, folks behind the scenes on the purpose and the authenticity that we wanted to provide, and just let them be themselves. They understood that we had a schedule to follow, but it wasn't a huge issue in terms of letting them know what to talk about, how much and how little. I think the toughest part of time management this time was the microphones from analysts. So to be very honest, but that's what we do.
Brian Summer in the room, Paul Greenberg in the room, Vinnie Mirchandani in the room. How the hell do you manage them?
Oh my God, it's funny. It's part of the fun to our job at every conference. I think we want to make sure that different perspectives are heard, and that you guys have a chance to ask questions without being shut down or having the mic taken away. But that's always an art, the art of time management for analysts. I think
I do have to ask you this. You didn't lose any hair. You said it was a 6-month process. Were there times where you go, oh my God, we've created a monster, this is so many things to coordinate? Did you at points feel like I gave up?
Well, I think Pooja, this is where I think, Pooja was a lifesaver. I think she was on the ground for a month before. And those were the hardest weeks, I think, leading up to the actual event, where lots of the details had to be sewn together. So I definitely want Pooja to talk about this.
Well, before we move to Pooja, talk about Tenkasi for a minute, because many of us went to Tenkasi for a day. This is where Sridhar's rural vision is really came to life. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about the planning around that.
Well, that's also something Pooja should talk about, but I will just transition with this comment. I think the whole goal, like I mentioned, was to see things into action, to feel what Zoho and Zoho Schools or Rural Initiative is all about. And there wasn't ever a question that we would not show you something as beautiful as that Rural Initiative. And I don't want to say the name and mess up, so I will let Pooja actually take over, because the success of that experience had everything to do with Pooja and all the teachers on the ground.
Well, Pooja, let's start talking about Tenkasi and all the logistics.
Sure. I think Sandy really put it together well. And I remember when we were at Zoho Day and when Sridhar came on Zoho meetings to address all of you guys there, I think most of you, or many of you who actually joined us, the 15 of you that joined us, I think you had that one question, that how come you're living there, and so many things. And his answers wouldn't have convinced any of you, or even many of you came and asked us this, right? How is he there, and is he going to come here? And then while we said, yeah, it's our culture, this is how our people are, even the cube that we gave and stuff like that. But when this whole thing happened, I think you really saw that happening, right? So you saw really how it is being done. So it's more about showing you than doing, I mean, than talking about it. I think Zoho in itself is about that. We believe in doing and then, talking about it. So coming to your Tenkasi point, I think it was really interesting. I've never been to Tenkasi either, but I kind of did this whole virtual run up with Sandy. I know for how many other times, right? It used to be my 7 a.m. I used to go for a walk and I used to call Sandy, which used to be pretty late for her dinner time. And it used to be like, okay, this is how it looks like. And used to kind of do these virtual run ups to see, what we are going to kind of get you people into. But I think it was really what we wanted to show was real, what it is. I mean, really as real it can be. So
Why don't we bring it? Why don't we bring it to life for the audience? You want to share some of the photos, some of the tweets, some of the whatever. Share with the audience some of the bring it to life.
Taking off from the keyword experiences here, I think experiencing truly Zoho, to make sure we take you through how people at Zoho live, learn, and love being part of this process of crafting Zoho's products and living this passionately over years. You would see a lot of what is here brings about the culture of Zoho itself. Right from what Sandy shared here in her post, talking about how immersive and interesting this experience was, not only for analysts, but also for many of us, it was a different and a great experience. The bold and the beautiful colors of this handprint brings out a visual essence of truly Zoho. Yatirat's story depicting on how much Zoho plays emphasis on people has melted all of our hearts. The visit to Shore Temple in Chennai, the Tenkasi's architecture tour, and the ride across the farms in EV tuk-tuk driven by Sridhar himself were all memorable and highlights of this trip. We also had provided opportunities to have unscripted conversations with Zoho leaders while navigating through Chennai office. This also included, some good time spent under this beautiful people tree. Warm welcome by students of Kalevani School was touching and memorable experience of a lifetime, I think, for all of us. Truly, Zoho was an experiment and a unique experience that has been a great success indeed.
Sandy was like, let's try this. It's going to be different. It's going to be, interesting. And, we don't need to prepare anyone or anything. It's more about, showing it what it is as it is, right? So I think for Tenkasi, it was more about putting things together and making sure that we kind of stick to the time that we want to, and also show a real Tenkasi. So I think the rural revival was the theme that we thought we should stick to. And of course the distance was something that we were calculating, and we were hoping that things fall in place. So we, thanks to all of you, we had all of you kind of wake up pretty early, leave from Chennai, and get to the airport and kind of go over the whole thing. But finally when we reached Tenkasi, I think it was all worth it. So there was nothing that we had pre-planned to tell the kids to tell you or anything. It was all very formed out together.
It was remarkable. When I think about that day, not just the kids showing us the traditional Southern Indian dances, the martial arts. I mean, just the skill they showed. These are what, 7, 8, 10-year-old kids, right? The farmers we saw, just the whole experience. Sridhar's electric tuk-tuk that he rides around. I mean, it was just, you can't talk about it. You got to experience all it. But I really like this, how you guys, whatever hiccup you had along the way. So whoever ordered the lunches, this was like so surreal. The bus stops, and suddenly these big boxes show up in each one of our laps, right? I'm like, who are these people? Where did this come from? In the middle of the road, right?
So challenge was the challenge was to kind of stick to the time and make sure that still we don't get you guys decent food at least to have while we are on road. So I think putting that together was like to understand how much would each of you eat. I mean, it was difficult to kind of assess that, and what are the allergies. So we had a list of allergies that we had to kind of cover, but we got it from one of the hotels there who catered to those things. But I think coming back to the talent that you spoke about, I think really I resonate to what Sridhar says, that the industry wants pre-prepared talent, whereas with Zoho we mine it, right? And in real sense, we wanted to get that out when we showed you the rural revival. It's not about coming from a Stanford or Ivy League that really makes you different from who you are. So it's all about what you have and how it can be brought about. So I think more from a logistic point, we didn't know that we would have to even go navigate through those smaller roads to get to Tenkasi. If you see, we crossed a few villages before we reached Tenkasi, and because we thought there's a bridge being built and it would be kind of completed. So right from that, so to save that time, we said, okay, let's get the pre-packed lunch. So it's like a more like that picnic kind of a feel for all of us, and that's how that whole idea came through.
The whole week brought out the modern part of India and also the very, very traditional, primitive part of India, right? So
Right.
we landed at a small airport, which was a 45-minute commuter flight, and wind turbines everywhere. And you go, this is modern India. And then we hit what you talk about, the dirt roads and the sudden delivery of food in your lap, right? Over and over again, you guys took us to a couple of really nice dinners, and one of them was a tasting menu. And I think because of all the people you had to cater to, all the restrictions, there were probably 50 items in the tasting menu. People got different menus and all that. That brought home to me. I said, my God, what did these guys have to plan for? Not just the idiosyncrasies of the analysts, but their diets, oh God, just remarkable. Tell me from your perspective, Sandy and Pooja, tell me a couple of things that did not go as well. Share with the world. It could have been perfect, right? So share a couple of things. If you had to do again, what would you do? And it cannot be, we won't do it again.
That was my answer. No, just kidding. No, it was a beautiful experience. I guess a couple things I would try to do differently, although the how, I'm not so certain. I know that I got some feedback that the schedule was packed. We knew it was packed, but to allow ourselves to show you some of the things in each of these categories, including the experience in Tenkasi, it had to be packed because we know how difficult it would be for analysts to give us, let's say, a week and a half of their time, right? So with the travel, with a full 24 hours travel, both, at that both ways, we really only have 5 business days to work with. And so it was packed for a certain reason, but I guess, if I could do it differently, I would probably remove a couple sessions from the agenda to allow you guys a little bit more liberty to roam around the campus. So that's definitely one thing. Initially, my biggest worry was actually the bus rides, but the bus ride turned out to be a surprising positive because I saw people sitting with different folks each ride and started chatting. And for me personally, through that bus ride, I got to know deep dark secrets about people. No, just kidding. But I definitely enjoyed those conversations. It became quite meaningful. We were just sitting there, not the greatest cell reception during those rides, but we got to talk as human beings. So that experience was unforgettable. One last quick thing, and this is going to be transitioning to Pooja. I don't think most people knew, but our Tenkasi agenda changed probably 4 times 12 hours before we embarked. That was very difficult. And Pooja, I will let you talk a little bit more about that.
I think it was fun. So I think the challenge was about making sure we show everything to you, right? So truly the way we are, right? We want to show everything about Tenkasi, everything about Chennai. And that's how we kind of put the whole thing together. But Chennai traffic being traffic, that's where, we didn't estimate it to be so much. But for Tenkasi, I think, we did change it like, maybe under 12 hours, 3 times or 4 times. But I would say, whatever the challenges were, so even the packed food was not something that was planned for. It was actually that we wanted you guys to have a sit down meal. But had we done that, you would have missed meeting the Kalaivani school students. So I think, and we didn't want you guys to miss that experience, because they were going to stay back an additional 30 minutes to show you guys what they feel. And I think we were the first visitors. I mean, the analysts were the first visitors that they met from an outside of, Zoho World, or maybe a few others who visited them. So I think it really made them feel good about the whole thing. So that's one thing where we had to accommodate, and we kind of juggled it, and it really worked. So, between me, Sandy, and few others, we had to kind of put that together. That was one big challenge. The other challenge was our fingers crossed that the flight should reach on time, right? So had we not reached on time, everything would have not fallen in place again. So, but as they say, right, if we put in our efforts, things also, the destiny follows you. So I think we reached 15 minutes before, which really worked in our favor. So, and the best part was none of you guys asked for a bio break. So I was hoping that we get there without, because I wouldn't have found anything on the way. I just had one place which I had kept as backup, but I think that was something that we just went, we flew by. So we had that good experience. And again, while we got there, you got to eat those local fruits, right? It's called nongu, one of that you had. And then you had the other local dishes that were curated at Tenkasi, the Tirunelveli alva that you had, or the murku that they gave you. I think that was also local, and we wanted it to be very interesting. Like when they say, if you visit a particular place, did you try this? And if you say you didn't, it wouldn't be appropriate. So we tried to make it a balance of what is special there plus what is your usual kind of eating. We wanted to kind of blend both together, so show the best of the worlds.
I mean, when you talk about experiences, I thought it was great that all the analysts actually got into the spirit. On that day, Rebecca wore a sari, a silk sari. Several people wore the lungis, or the line cloths. I mean, several people had kurtas. I mean, and the richness of the colors and all that really came out. And the food, like you say, the uniqueness of the local food came out. So you say they were, the kids saw us for the first time. I think it was our honor to visit them. Hopefully you'll bring many more customers and so on to not just the campus, but also Tenkasi. So thank you for having us there.
About the bus ride. So that was another thing that I was, between me and Sandy, I used to ask her, is it okay to, do the bus ride? And, should we do a few cars, like a convoy of cars? And we did a lot of deliberation there. And then we said, okay, let's do the most luxurious bus that we could ever get there. And that's how, we kind of figured that maybe that would be the best way. And then, as Sandy said, it all fell in place, and we really found it fun to do it together, right? On those moments, I don't think we could ever do that again, of having such long bus rides, but having so much fun together. I remember that moment where Liz was swatting the mosquito and
and the cheer. I have it on video. That's the amazing thing. But lots of wonderful, genuine moments that came out of all of us, just beyond the work capacity.
You talk about deep dark secrets, right? My funnest bus ride was Mickey Stanley describing his family genealogy, right?
Oh my gosh.
I've heard it a couple of times, but I never get tired of him describing that. And then Jeremy Cox joined in, and he was talking about his family, and I gave a couple of immigrant stories and so on. That hour passed so quickly, like I say, Sandy.
Oh, yeah.
We got to meet, share time with other people that we would not have had without the bus rides.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant that you guys did breakfast before 10 o'clock, right? So we had breakfast at lunch at the hotel, and you had Raju or Vijay present for that hour. And then we drove to cut out some other traffic. So I think you did it. Even that worked out pretty well. So, let's wrap it up with, when do you see this? Are you going to do it again? Are you going to do it with customers? Are you going to do it with partners? I mean, what ideas have you got from this that you can use with other groups of the Zoho ecosystem?
I can't say for sure when the next release Zoho will be, or if there will be another. It was certainly an experiment, and it was a successful one. It was a wonderful one that left people feeling like the goal was accomplished, meaning that they got to really understand what and who Zoho really is. It's right now, as we're planning for our analyst track as Zoholics, one of the things that I'm probably a little overly concerned about is there's no way we can ever replicate this type of experience with our analyst summits or user conferences, right? So we're trying to define each experience and what they stand for. But a good point, because that's one of the solutions that Vijay Sundaram and I talked about was, you guys got this letter from him. I mean, it was like a long essay, and I think Josh Greenbaum calls it a manifesto, but it was all about capitalism, but with empathy, what that really means, right? So I think our approach will be different, certainly for upcoming events, because they're not going to be like this intimate, immersive experience. So for Zoholics user track, it's going to be about customer value. It's going to be all about what we can provide for customers and moving a little bit away from the culture. But, any Zoho event, you'll have that cultural element. And then looking ahead to Zoho Day 2024, it's going to be, again, transnational localism, but with a larger group in a different location. I think you've seen heard a lot about what we do in India, but, we actually have done the same in the US as well. And I won't say more, but we will be able to showcase that a little bit in 2024.
That is part of the Zoho culture. I mean, you are
very much so.
Look for secondary and tertiary cities wherever you go, right? I mean, in the Middle East, in Nigeria, etc. You've looked for secondary and tertiary cities. So rural revival is not just an Indian thing. In Texas, you're in Austin, you're looking at McAllen. So that's part of your culture. Well, this is, one thing I really appreciated was you also had some customers there in the audience, right? Did you get any feedback from them?
Especially, I think David Fowler, you remember him. He was with us the entire way. For him, I don't want to speak for him, but based on everything we've heard,
he's on my interview list. So
good. Okay. So listen to David there. But for us, getting to know a customer or customers at that level was an incredible experience. It's not transactional. That relationship has elevated to a completely different level. So, but yeah, I will let David actually talk a little bit more about that. But one other thing I do have to say was, my gosh, Pooja. Pooja herself, and also Sai, who's not, on this interview, both of them, without their support and the details and the backup to the backup plan to the backup plan. I mean, we had a backup plan for every situation. And without the two of them, this event certainly would not have been as smooth as it was. So just want to really acknowledge both of their hard work. I mean, it was a lot of people. It took a village to pull it together, but we're really grateful that it happened. And most of you guys, I think, had a wonderful experience, I hope.
We certainly did. And if people say they didn't, well,
No one did. I didn't want to assume, but yeah.
Pooja, any final thoughts?
No, I think, as Sandy said, I think this was one of the experiences which nobody in the industry has done. I would say, at least I'm not aware. And having folks for 6 days in action, back to back, doing things together has been kind of a revelation that it is possible if you really get into it. So kind of Sandy led us from the front, and like she said, backup plan. And she was always there to, back us up for doing all that. So I think it really was putting all this together. We really needed that village and that kind of a thing, but it really got us closer to all of you guys. So it really worked. Thank you so much.
Well, so let me just summarize by saying, in the last 20, 30 minutes, we've described a tiny fraction of the experiences we all had. We really had to be there. This is not doing it much justice, but Sandy and Pooja, thank you for trying. And again, a million thanks for all the stuff you did for all of us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vinnie. Thank you for being part of this experience.